one of the missing sections that we haven't covered yet that's going to be on the final is 4.4, which is parallel and perpendicular lines. So let's understand that parallel lines mean that they're never going to intersect, right? Perpendicular lines mean that they intersect perfectly to form a perfect corner, a 90-degree angle, okay? Now, let's get down to what we really need to know. When we look at parallel lines on a graph, that means that they never cross each other. They're going in the same exact direction, right? So if they're going in the same direction, that must mean that they have the same steepness. If they have the same steepness, that means that they have the same what? Slope. So one thing that we need to learn, like let's take a look at this blue line, and the B value is 2 on this one, and you do rise 1, 2, and go over 1, 2, 3. So the slope is 2 over 3. So if the M value is 2 over 3 and the B value we said was 2, then we could write our equation y equals 2 over 3x plus 2. That's this top blue line right there. If we did the same for the bottom one, the other B value is -1. The B value equals -1. And the M value again is up 1, 2 over 1, 2, 3. So the slope again is rise 2, run 3. The slope again is rise 2, run 3. So my new slope-intercept form equation is y equals 2/3 x minus 1 this time. So what do we know about both of these equations? We know that they're parallel, but when you look at it just with the algebra, not with the actual visual lines that they don't cross, when we look at the algebraic equations, what could we tell? That this number is exactly the same as that number. Those are the M values, right? So again, parallel lines have the same slope. We need to know that, guys. As a matter of fact, write it down somewhere. Parallel lines have the same exact M values, the same exact slope. I mean, visually you saw this. They're both going in the same exact direction, have the same steepness. They're never going to cross. That means they have the same slope. In this case, the slope is 2/3. That's parallel lines. Parallel lines have the same slope. What do parallel lines have? There you go. Okay, good. Now, let's go for perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines, we said they cross to form perfect 90-degree angles. Okay? So if I told you create the equation of this red line, the B value is -4, and you do rise 1, 2, 3 over 1, so your equation is y equals 3x minus 4. There's the equation of the red line, y equals 3x minus 4. You can't really see that good. Y equals, technically it's 3 over 1, x minus 4, where the M value is 3 over 1 and the B value is -4. Everybody understands that red line, yes? Okay, so the blue line, that one crosses at 2, and you go down 1, and you go over 1, 2, 3. So the slope down 1 means -1 on the rise, and run 3. So the slope right there is -1/3, and that's what it says right here. Let me rewrite it so we can see it better. Y equals -1 over 3x plus 2. So we have the blue equation, we have the red equation. Now, perpendicular means that they cross each other to form a perfect 90-degree angle, but we really want to not focus in on the graph too much. Right now, what we want to focus in on is the actual comparison of these slopes. Okay? Perpendicular lines, do they have the same exact M value? No. What could we say about this fraction compared to that fraction? Opposite. This one's negative, this one's positive, but there's something else besides opposite. They flip. Those are called opposite reciprocal slopes. Okay? So we need to know that for a fact. All right? The fact is perpendicular slopes have opposite reciprocal slopes. Or perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. Let's write that down. Perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal M values, opposite reciprocal slopes. Now that's two things in one. Opposite means that If one slope is negative, the other one has to be positive. If one slope is positive, the other one has to be negative. And reciprocal means that you take whatever's on your numerator, your rise, and you move it to the bottom, and you take the bottom and you move it to the top. So it's two things. You're changing the sign and you're flipping the fraction. So once again, parallel lines have the same slope. Perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. Or if you want to write it this way, you could say change sign, then flip fraction. You could say it that way also. But we need to have this memorized. Parallel is the same slope. Perpendicular, you change the sign and you flip the fraction. Okay. Now that's going to give us a lot of information, especially when we try to do the homework today. Let's check it out. Y equals mx plus b. That's slope-intercept form. So they want us to write an equation in slope-intercept form on the top half. They want us to do the same thing on the bottom half. It says write an equation in slope-intercept form also. Okay. So again, down here, y equals mx plus b as well. Okay. So on the whole worksheet, they want us to write it in slope-intercept form. But let's go to the top again. On top, it says write in slope-intercept form for the line that passes through the given point. So they give you a point and is parallel to the graph of the given equation. First of all, we need to know what parallel means. What does parallel mean? Parallel means same what? Same slope, same m value. Okay? So I hope you guys remember last week they gave you a point and they gave you the slope. They said the slope is 3 over 2 or the slope is 1/2. So your slope is m equals 1/2 and your point is this. Right here they don't tell you directly the slope, they tell you indirectly the slope. They say your point is 5 over 4, but your slope is going to be parallel to the slope of this equation. So when they say parallel, that means same slope. So the only thing that you care about with this equation is what the slope is. And what is the slope right there? The slope is 2/5. Okay? So you want to write an equation in y equals mx plus b form. In order to do that, you need an m value and you also need a b value, right? They don't give you an m, they don't give you a b, but indirectly they do give you the m because they tell you that your line is parallel to this one. And parallel means same slope, which means that this slope is the same exact slope as ours. So our slope is also 2/5. Are you with me? Okay, so last week, how did I give it to you? I gave you a slope, I gave you a point, and you plugged it into point slope form, then you modified it to this. This week, it's the same thing. I give you a slope, but I don't tell you, hey, your slope is 2/5. I tell you your equation is parallel to this one, so indirectly I'm telling you the slope, right? Indirectly, I'm telling you the slope 2/5. Okay, and now you need to find b. You could either plug everything into y equals mx plus b, or you could use the point and the slope and use point slope form and then modify it to y equals mx plus b. So what do you guys want to do? Plug it all in right there? Okay, so let's plug in the y value. What's the y value? Okay, so 4 instead of y equals, what's m? 2 over 5, okay, times x. What's x? 5, okay, and then plus b, right? Now 2/5 times 5, that's beautiful, cancels out. Oh wait, why did I put a 5 right there? I'm sorry. Let me go back, put a b right there, typo. Okay, so what do we have? We have a new equation that says 4 equals 2 plus b. Subtract 2, subtract 2. What does b equal? 2. So your b value is 2. And now that you know your m, which was the same as the parallel line they gave you, and now that you found your b, which is 2, now you can write your equation in y equals mx plus b form. Y equals what? 2 over 5x plus 2. That is your slope-intercept form. That's the answer that they give you on the back, right? If you were to graph this one and graph that one, they would never intersect because they're parallel. If you were to graph this one, it'll definitely cross through that 0.54. Okay? So the only difference between last week and this week, last week I gave you a point and I told you a slope. This week I gave you a point and I give you some information about a different line. And that different line right here happens to be parallel. Now that's on the first half. Not only that, not all of them are going to be that easy. Okay, let me show you why they're not all that easy. Let's look at number 7. They want you to write an equation in slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. And in order to do that, you need two things. You need the m and you need the b. Do I know the m value? They tell us that our equation is going to be parallel to this guy, right? But the thing is, parallel means same slope, but I don't even know the slope of this guy because it's not in slope-intercept form. It either needs to be in point-slope form to see the m or slope-intercept to see the m. So right here, I need to get rid of that 3. I want to divide by 3, divide by 3, divide by 3. My new equation becomes y equals 2/3 x minus 1. So the above equation is the same as this one. I just made it look different. This one, it wasn't in any form. It wasn't standard form. It wasn't slope-intercept, but I modified it so I could have y by itself. That way it looks like slope-intercept form. And why do I want it in slope-intercept form? So I could see the m value. What is the m value right here, guys? 2/3. And if I know that my line is parallel, which it is, they tell us on the instructions, if it's parallel to this one, that means my slope is the same exact slope as that one right there, which means my slope is 2/3 as well. Yay? And then after that, I need to find my b value, either by plugging everything into y equals mx plus b or using point slope form. What do you guys prefer, y equals mx plus b or point slope? Slope-intercept, y equals mx plus b? Okay, we'll stick with that, I guess. So instead of y, what am I going to write? Instead of m, what am I going to write? Instead of x, what am I going to write? Instead of, b, you're going to leave it b. Now let's do the math. The 3 and the 3 cancel. That's really a -1 because there's still a negative sign right there. And 2 times -1, that is -2. Plus b equals 4. So you go plus 2 here, plus 2 over here. 6 equals b. So now we know that our b value is 6. Once we know the m value, 2/3, and the b value 6, now we could write in slope-intercept form. So my equation that has a slope 2/3 and the b value 6 will be y equals 2/3 x plus 6. That's your equation. That's the answer in the back. Now, keep in mind, guys, this over here, this equation that I modified, all I wanted that for was to find the m. I don't need it anymore. The only thing I needed it for was to find the m. Once I find the m, I have my m because I know it's parallel. And then I could find my b by plugging my m, my x, and my y all into y equals mx plus b. So I could find my b value so that I could write it in slope-intercept form. Okay, so like I said, the first half, they tell you it's parallel. The second half, they tell you it's perpendicular. Should we do one more right here or just move on to the second half? One more? All right, let's all take a look at number 12. They tell us that our line is parallel to this line. Now, could you even see the slope right there on that one? You can't really see the slope yet. Can't see the slope yet. Why not? Because it's in standard form. You want to change it to slope-intercept. So let's do that. Let's subtract 2x to start getting y by itself. I have 5y equals -2x with a positive 7. And then you would divide by 5, divide by 5, divide by 5. Your slope-intercept form equation is y equals -2 over 5x plus 7 over 5. That is an ugly equation, but the only thing that we care about is that our line has to be parallel to this line. Our line has to be parallel to this line, and we know that parallel means what? Same slope. So our slope is going to be exactly that slope. So our slope is going to be what? -2 over 5. Right? Now, everything over here, guys, you could ignore now. All that work that we did, why did we do that work? To be able to find our slope because it's parallel to that. Okay? So we don't have to look at this anymore. You could ignore it from here on out. But now you want to write your equation in y equals mx plus b. You need an m. You found the m because it's parallel. It's the same thing. You need a b. We could find the b by plugging everything into y equals mx plus b. The y value happens to be what? 1. The m value happens to be what? Negative 2/5. The x value happens to be what? 3. Bring down the plus b as well. Let's solve. How do you multiply a fraction with the number? Put it over 1. Top with the top, bottom with the bottom. You're going to have 1 equals negative 6 over 5 plus b. Now, if you're still confused with this, we could multiply everything by 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. And we are running out of space here, but let me do this. I'm going to rewrite my equation up here. So instead of 5 times 1, it's just 5 equals, the 5 cancels with that 5, so you have a negative 6 left over. And 5 times b is plus 5b. You with me?
Wait, Mr. Sal,
yes.
the work? Yeah.
I don't know, should I zoom in right here?
Yeah.
You multiply everything by 5. 5 times 1 is 5. This 5 and this 5 are going to cancel out, so you're going to have a negative 6. And b times 5 is 5b. So you're going to have 5 equals negative 6 plus 5b. And that's exactly what I have up here. 5 equals negative 6 plus 5b. So now let's get rid of the negative 6 by doing plus 6. Plus 6. You're going to have 11 equals 5b. Wow, this is ugly. Divide by 5, divide by 5. b equals 11 over 5. So if you know your m, which was negative 2/5, and you know your b, which is 11 over 5, you could write your equation in y equals mx plus b form. So the y equals mx plus b form equation is y equals negative 2/5 x plus 11 over 5. 11 over 5 could also be written as 2 1/5. Check the back, and you'll see that it should be the right answer. Is it?
Yes.
Good. Now, the first half, they tell you parallel, which means you have the same slope. The second half, they tell you perpendicular, okay? And perpendicular means that your line is not going to have the same slope. It means that it's going to have opposite reciprocal m values. So check it out. On this one, they say your line is going to have or pass through the point negative 4, negative 3. That is an x and a y. And you need an m to be able to write your equation of y equals mx plus b and a b to write your equation of y equals mx plus b. But they give you an equation over here, and they tell you that your equation is going to be perpendicular, not parallel, perpendicular to this one right here. Now this one, you don't even know the slope yet, right? What do you need to do to get the slope? You need to write it in slope-intercept form. So let's subtract 4x. Subtract 4x. You will have y equals negative 4x plus 7. Are you with me? So what is my slope of this line over here? My slope is negative 4 over 1. Now, my slope, check this out, my slope has to be perpendicular to that slope. It's not parallel anymore. The bottom half says perpendicular. What does perpendicular mean?
Perpendicular means
opposite reciprocal slope values. So instead of negative 4, actually let me do this. Let me put the negative 4 over 1. Instead of negative 4, it's going to be positive, but instead of 4 over 1, it's going to be 1 over 4. So my perpendicular slope is going to be positive 1/4 instead of negative 4. Yes or no? So our slope is positive 1/4 instead of negative 4. That's our slope. You don't even care anything else about this one over here. Whatever, you could scratch it out if you want. You already got what you needed, which was your slope. How do we get our slope? Because they told us that our line is perpendicular to this line, which means whatever slope you see right here, you have to change the sign and flip the fraction. That's how we get a positive 1/4 for our slope. Once you have the slope and you have a point, you could plug it all into either point slope form or slope intercept form. Do you guys want to try point slope, or do you guys want to keep going with slope intercept?
point slope.
Point slope just for fun. Actually, we'll do both just for fun right here. So let's go point slope. If you did go point slope is y minus y1 equals m parenthesis x minus x1. So it's really y minus blank spot equals blank spot parentheses x minus blank spot. The y1 value happens to be negative 3. The x1 value happens to be negative 4. The minus minus changes to plus plus. And the m value happens to be 1/4. So if you were to distribute the 1/4, 1/4 times x is 1/4 x. 1/4 times 4, put it over 1, you'll get 4/4, which is really just 1. And bring down the y plus 3 equaling the 1/4 x. I forgot the x, sorry. X right there, plus 1. So then you'd have to subtract 3 to both sides. And you'd get y equals 1/4 x minus 2. This is the answer that you want. Y equals 1/4 x minus 2. Now some of us are thinking, I don't like point slope. I hate point slope. Okay, you don't have to do it that way. This is just an option. Let me put in a little cloud. You could also do it with y equals mx plus b. If you take the y value of negative 3 and put it right there for the y. You take the m value of 1/4, put it right in there for the m value. You take the x value of negative 4, plug it right in there, and then the plus b over here. Sorry, it's getting messy. But the 4's do cancel out. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. Bring down the plus b, bring down the equal, bring down the negative 3. Can't see it? Negative 3 equals negative 1 plus b. So I need to get rid of that negative 1. So you're going to add 1, and that'll be negative 2 equals b. So your b value is negative 2. That looks ugly. It's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of work. Negative 2 is the b value. So now you know your y, your m, and your b. You could write in y equals 1/4 x minus 2, y equals mx plus b form. Same exact thing as over here. So it depends what you feel more comfortable with. Let's go to number 17. 18. Why not? 18. Okay. So your line has to be perpendicular to this line that they give you. So let's first change it. This is standard form. Let's change it to slope-intercept. So let's switch the 3x to the other side by subtracting 3x. Let's rewrite it. 12y equals negative 3x minus 6. Let's divide everything by 12 to get y by itself. You can't really divide by 12, but you could reduce all those fractions. You're going to get y equals negative 1/4 x minus 1/2. This is the slope-intercept form of the equation above, right here. This blue equation in the box is the same thing as this one, but I changed the form. I changed the slope-intercept. Why did I do that? So I could clearly identify the m value, which is negative 1/4 of that equation. But on the instructions, they tell us that our equation is going to be perpendicular to that equation. So our slope has to be what if it's perpendicular to negative 1/4? What is our slope going to be if it has to be perpendicular to negative 1/4? Opposite reciprocal. So what is the opposite reciprocal of negative 1/4? 4. 4 over 1. Or you could just leave it 4. Right? So now that you know the m, you still need the b in order to write in y equals mx plus b. Just plug in what you know to find out what you don't know. Plug in the x, the y, plug in the m, right? So instead of y, you're going to put negative 7 equals m is 4 times x. X is negative 1 plus b. So you really have negative 7 equals negative 4 plus b. You're going to get rid of that minus 4 by going plus 4 and plus 4. So you're going to have negative 3 equals b. So your b value is negative 3. We found our slope. How? Knowing that it's perpendicular to this guy. So you first change it to slope-intercept so you could see that m, so you could get the negative reciprocal slope, the opposite reciprocal slope, which is positive 4. Then you take that m that you just found out and this x and y value and plug it all into y equals mx plus b so you could find the b value. And then at the very end, you write your equation in y equals mx plus b form. So your equation's y equals 4x minus 3. It's a lot of stuff. If you don't practice, it's going to get harder and harder. You need to practice in order to make this easy, right? The answers are in the back. You guys need to practice. So let's do it. I want to upload several videos explaining many of these questions.